My name is Sophia, and I am 23 years old. I come from Buenos Aires, Argentina, but now I live in Chicago. Chicago is very big and busy. The streets are full of people, and there are tall buildings everywhere. Everything here is new to me, and it feels a little scary. But at the same time, it also feels full of hope. I came here for a new life, new dreams, and to find a new job. I want to learn a new language, and I want to start fresh. I left my home far away, and now I have to begin again. When I arrived in Chicago, it was cold. The weather was very different from Argentina. I wore my warm jacket, but I still felt the cold wind on my face. I walked through the streets, and everything felt strange. The people around me were talking so quickly, and I could not understand much of what they said. My hands were shaking because I was nervous, and I felt so small in this big city. I didn't know what to do. But I had to keep moving forward. I had to do something. So, I decided to find a cafe and get a cup of tea. I needed something warm to make me feel better. I walked into a small cafe. When I entered, I felt the warmth inside. It was a nice feeling because it was so cold outside. But then, when I looked at the menu, I felt nervous again. The words were big, and I didn't understand many of them. I started to feel afraid, and I thought, what if I can't order? But then something happened. A woman behind the counter smiled at me. She asked, "First time here?" Her voice was soft and friendly. I smiled back, but I felt shy. "Yes," I said, "I just moved here." "I'm learning English." The woman didn't stop smiling. She said, "Don't worry, dear. I can help you today." Her kindness was like a warm light in a dark room. I felt a little better. Maybe I wasn't alone here. Maybe I could do this. Her name was Emma, and she worked at the cafe. She pointed at the menu and said, "This one is black tea, and this one is green tea." I looked carefully at her finger and tried to listen carefully. "Black tea," I said slowly. "I want black tea." Emma smiled and said, "Perfect, that's how you start." I felt so happy when she said that. It wasn't easy, but I was trying. I was doing it. After paying for my tea, she said, "Come back anytime, Sophia. We can practice English together." Her words made me feel better. I smiled and walked out of the cafe, feeling lighter. I was not perfect, but I knew I could do it. The next day, I felt a little braver. I decided to look for an English school. I found a small school near my apartment. It looked friendly. When I opened the door, a woman smiled at me. "Hello, welcome," she said. Her name was Mrs. Clark. There were other students in the classroom. They were from different countries: Mexico, Korea, Turkey. Everyone looked nervous, just like me, but we all wanted to learn. Mrs. Clark asked everyone to introduce themselves. I stood up and said, "I'm Sophia. I'm from Argentina." Mrs. Clark wrote our names on the board. She wrote simple words, name, country, and hello. Then, she pointed at the board and said, "Say these words with me." We repeated after her. Sometimes, I felt lost and confused, but I kept trying. I smiled, and Mrs. Clark smiled back. Her smile made me feel better. After the class, a girl named Lena waved at me. "Hi, I'm Lena. Let's practice English together," she said. I smiled and said, "Yes, thank you." Lena became my first real friend here. She was friendly, and we had a good time talking about our families, food, and dreams. We made many mistakes, but we didn't care. We laughed together, and I felt happy. Lena told me, if you want to get better at English, you have to practice every day. Watch TV with subtitles and speak with everyone. It's the best way. I nodded. "I will try," I said. Time passed quickly. I felt like I was growing a little bit every day. Chicago was starting to feel warmer. As I walked home, I whispered to myself, "I can do this. Yes, new words, new city, new life." Step by step, I knew I would grow stronger. A week later, Lena called me. "Come with me. Interview today," she said. I felt nervous, but I was also excited. We went to a small cafe. The manager smiled and said, "Sit, please." Lena spoke first, and she was confident. I watched her and tried to learn from her. Then, the manager looked at me and said, "Tell me about yourself." My hands felt cold, but I smiled and said, "My name is Sophia. I'm from Argentina. I want to work here." The manager asked, "Do you speak English?" I said, "A little, but I learn every day. I can clean and serve." He smiled and said, "We need someone for mornings. Can you start this week?" I was so happy. "Yes, I can start," I said. "Good," the manager said. "See you Friday at 8 a.m. That Friday, I was nervous again. I wore simple clothes, jeans, and a white shirt. I was ready for my first job. The manager smiled and introduced me to Anna, who would train me. "Follow me, Sophia," Anna said. "We clean tables and chairs." Then, she showed me how to serve customers with a smile. "Always smile," she said softly. Later, she showed me how to use the register. A customer came up, and I said, "Hello, how are you?" She smiled back and said, "Good, thanks. I'll take one coffee." My hand shook, but I pressed the buttons and said, "One coffee." She gave me the money, and I gave her change. "Thank you," I said. She smiled and said, "Your English is good." I felt so proud. I wasn't perfect, but I was learning. Later, I made a small mistake. I pressed the wrong button and gave a customer the wrong order. But Anna helped me. She said, "It's okay, everyone makes mistakes. You'll get better." She was so kind. I felt like I belonged. Chicago wasn't perfect, but it was starting to feel like home. Step by step, I was growing and learning. I didn't feel so scared anymore. I knew I could do this. I could make a new life in this big city. The next day, I felt a little braver. I decided to find an English school. I wanted to learn more so I could speak better and feel more confident. I found a small school near my apartment. When I arrived, I saw a woman at the desk. She smiled and said, "Hello, welcome." Her voice was kind, and she made me feel comfortable right away. Her name was Mrs. Clark. I looked around and saw other students in the classroom. There were people from different countries: Mexico, Korea, Turkey. Everyone looked nervous like me, but we were all there to learn. Mrs. Clark asked each of us to introduce ourselves. When it was my turn, I stood up and said, "I'm Sophia. I'm from Argentina." I felt nervous, but I knew I had to try. Mrs. Clark wrote our names on the board. She wrote simple words like name, country, and hello. She pointed at the board and said, "Say these words with me." We all repeated the words. Some of the students were shy, just like me. But we all smiled, and that made it easier. Sometimes I felt confused, but I didn't give up. I smiled and kept trying. Mrs. Clark smiled back and said, "Don't worry if you make mistakes. It's okay, you're learning." Her words made me feel better. I knew I wasn't alone. We were all learning together. After class, a girl named Lena came up to me. "Hi, I'm Lena. Let's practice English together," she said. I was happy to hear that because I didn't know many people in Chicago. "Yes, thank you," I answered with a smile. Lena became my first real friend here. She was friendly, and we talked about many things, like our families, our food, and our dreams. Sometimes we made mistakes, but we didn't care. We laughed and helped each other. I felt so much better after talking with her. Lena told me something important. "If you want to speak better English, you need to practice every day," she said. "You should watch TV with subtitles and speak to everyone you meet. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, just speak." I nodded. "I will try," I said. I felt encouraged. Lena's advice helped me understand that I had to keep practicing. Every day, I would learn a little more. I wasn't perfect, but I was getting better. As the days passed, I practiced speaking English every day. Sometimes I felt nervous, but I kept trying. One day, Lena called me. "Come with me to an interview," she said. "You can try to get a job." I was nervous, but also excited. I needed to find a job, and this was my chance. We went to a small cafe. The manager was nice and told us to sit. He asked Lena to speak first, and she did. She was confident and calm. Then, the manager looked at me and asked, "Tell me about yourself." My hands felt cold, but I tried my best. "My name is Sophia. I'm from Argentina. I want to work here, I said. The manager asked, do you speak English? I said, a little, but I learn every day. I can clean and serve. He smiled and said, we need someone to work in the mornings, cleaning tables and helping with the cashier. Can you start this week? I felt so happy and proud. Yes, I can start, I said. The manager smiled and said, good, see you on Friday at 8 a.m. I couldn't believe it. I got the job. I was nervous but also very excited. This was a big step for me. Lena smiled and squeezed my hand. I'm so proud of you, she said. I walked home feeling proud of myself. It wasn't perfect English, but I tried. I had made progress, and that was enough. On Friday, I went to my first day at work. I wore my clean jeans and a white shirt. I felt nervous, but I knew I had to do my best. The manager smiled when I arrived and introduced me to Anna. She will train you, the manager said. Anna was very kind. She showed me how to clean the tables and chairs. Always smile, she said softly. When you smile, people feel happy. I tried to smile and clean the tables the way Anna showed me. Then, Anna showed me how to use the register. I was nervous because I didn't know how to use it, but Anna helped me. She said, don't worry, just press here for coffee orders, and this is for sandwiches. Soon, a customer came to the counter. I smiled and said, hello, how are you? She smiled back and said, good, thanks, I'll have one coffee. My hands were shaking, but I pressed the buttons on the register and said, one coffee. The woman gave me money, and I gave her the change. Thank you, I said. She smiled and said, your English is good. I felt so happy. It was my first time speaking English at work, and it went well. I wasn't perfect, but I did it. Later, I made a small mistake. I pressed the wrong button on the register and gave a customer the wrong order. I felt worried, but Anna came to help me. It's okay, she said. Press cancel, and then you can start again. I pressed cancel and fixed the order. The customer smiled and said, it's okay, you're doing great. I felt better after that. I was learning, and I knew mistakes were part of learning. That day, I felt proud. It wasn't perfect, but I had done my best. I had made progress, and that made me feel good. I was getting better every day. I could see that if I kept practicing and trying, I would get better at English and feel more confident. The next day, it rained. The wind was cold, but I walked to work with my umbrella. When I arrived at the cafe, I felt ready. I smiled at Anna, and she smiled back. The cafe was busy because of the rain, but I worked quickly and confidently. I smiled and spoke with customers. I remembered their orders and worked with Anna to serve everyone. Even when I made a mistake, I knew it was okay. I was learning, and that was the most important thing. At the end of the day, I felt good. I had worked hard, and I had improved. I was getting stronger and more confident every day. This new life was still hard, but it was getting better. I was not afraid anymore. I could do this. 3 months have passed since I came to Chicago. My life is still not perfect, but it is better now. I feel stronger every day. When I first arrived, I was afraid. I didn't know anyone, and I didn't understand much of what people were saying. But now, things are different. I've made friends, and I can speak more English. Every day, I try to improve. I am learning new things, and I am growing. My job at the cafe is going well. I feel more confident at work now. I remember when I first started, I was so nervous. I was scared to talk to the customers because I didn't think my English was good enough. But now, I'm not afraid. I smile and talk to the customers. Sometimes I make small mistakes, but it is okay. I am learning from them. Anna, my trainer, always tells me, mistakes are how we learn. Don't worry, you're doing great. Her words make me feel better. I know I am not perfect, but I am trying my best. And that is enough. One day after work, I had an idea. I remembered that when I was younger, I loved to draw. But after I moved to Chicago, I stopped drawing. I didn't have time, and I didn't feel like I was good enough. But now, I wanted to try again, so I decided to find a painting class. I searched online and found a free class near my apartment. I felt excited but nervous at the same time. It had been a long time since I had painted anything. The next day, I went to the art class. When I walked into the small room, I saw a teacher and other students. The teacher smiled at me and said, "Welcome. Today, we will paint flowers and houses." I felt nervous, but the teacher made me feel calm. She was kind and gentle. She gave me a brush and some paint. "Don't worry," she said. "Just paint, keep going. You're doing great." I took a deep breath and started painting. At first, my hands shook a little, but after a while, I felt more relaxed. I remembered how much I loved to paint when I was a child. It felt good to pick up a brush again. It was like I was finding a part of myself that I had forgotten. When the class was over, I looked at my painting. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I was proud of it. I smiled and thought, I can still create. I can still enjoy the things I love. The class made me feel happy. It reminded me that I am more than just the challenges I face. I have dreams, and I can still work on them. Painting was something I wanted to do, and now I was doing it again. After that, I started going to the art class every week. I kept practicing. Each week, I felt a little better. I learned new techniques, and I met other people who also loved art. I started to make new friends. The class helped me feel more at home in Chicago. It gave me a place to be myself. I wasn't just learning English, I was also learning more about who I am and what makes me happy. At work, things were getting better too. I worked hard, and every day I felt a little more confident. One day, the manager came to me and said, "Sophia, you did very well today. Would you like to work tomorrow?" I smiled and said, "Yes, thank you." I was so happy. It felt good to be recognized for my hard work. I knew that my English wasn't perfect, but I was getting better every day. And that was enough. I could see that I was growing, and that made me feel proud. There were still hard days. Of course, there were days when I missed my family in Argentina. I missed my mom's hugs and the food we used to eat together. Sometimes, I felt homesick. But even on those days, I knew I was doing the right thing. I knew that I was making progress, and that was important. Chicago was starting to feel more like home. The city was big and busy, but it didn't scare me as much anymore. Sometimes, I think about how far I've come. When I first arrived, I couldn't speak much English. I was scared to talk to people, and I didn't know where to start. But now, I can speak to customers at my job, and I can have conversations with my friends. I still make mistakes, but that's okay. I know that each mistake is a step forward. I'm not perfect, but I am proud of what I've achieved. Chicago is still not perfect, and I am still learning, but now I believe in myself. I know that I can face any challenge. I am growing, and I am learning every day. My story is just beginning, and I am excited to see where it will go. I don't know exactly what the future holds, but I know that I am strong enough to face it. I can't wait to see what comes next. Sophia's journey is one of courage, growth, and perseverance. She started in Chicago feeling lost and alone, unable to speak the language, and unsure of how she would fit into her new life. But with each step, she overcame challenges. She took the brave step of learning English, even though it was hard. She made mistakes, but instead of giving up, she used those mistakes to grow and learn. Through kindness from people like Emma and support from friends like Lena, Sophia found the strength to keep going. At first, it was the little things that made a big difference. Ordering tea at the cafe was a small victory, but it was a victory that gave her hope. Finding an English school and making friends helped her build her confidence. When she got her first job at the cafe, she was nervous, but she showed up every day and did her best. Even though things didn't always go perfectly, Sophia kept moving forward. Her story shows that even in the face of difficulty, every small step counts. Sophia also rediscovered her passion for painting, something she had forgotten about in her busy life. This helped her find a new sense of purpose and creativity. She didn't just survive in Chicago, she started to thrive. She built new relationships, developed new skills, and found new passions. In the end, she learned that life is not about being perfect, but about making progress, learning from mistakes, and not giving up. The lesson from Sophia's story is clear. No matter where you start, it's never too late to change, learn, and grow. Life is full of challenges, but with persistence and a positive attitude, you can overcome them. Whether you are learning a new language or starting something new in your life, the key is to take it step by step. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Each mistake is a chance to learn and get better. In your own life, remember that change takes time. You might face difficulties, just like Sophia did, but don't let those challenges stop you. Keep going, keep learning, and keep growing. Small steps will lead to big changes. And with each step, you will feel more confident and stronger. Now, it's your turn to test your understanding. Question: what is the main lesson from Sophia's story? You must always be perfect to succeed. Every small step counts and helps you grow. Please comment your answer or be below. We would love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this story and found it helpful, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you support us in creating more content to help you learn English. If you'd like to support us further, consider donating. Creating high-quality content takes time and effort, and we are doing this for free to help you. Your support helps us keep going and create even better content in the future. Thank you for being a part of this journey. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.